Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands was initially released on February 3rd, 2017 and came to Game Pass on August 2nd, 2022. We should also mention that the game is a part of the PS Plus Extra Games catalogue as of the making of this video. I'm still not completely sold on Ubisoft games, but after being pleasantly surprised by Far Cry 5, I was actually pretty excited to jump in here. I've heard a lot of good things about Wildlands, especially after the disaster that was Breakpoint. This is my first experience with a Ghost Recon game ever, and so I'm coming at this with a completely open mind. We cover a new game every single week, so if you like what you see and want to support us, subscribe, and leave a comment letting us know of any games you'd like us to check out. Now, we best get a squad together, drop in, and let you know if Ghost Recon Wildlands is worth your time.
We are ghosts, and we do not exist.
I hope you're in for the long haul. There is so much content here, all of which can be played solo or co-op with up to 3 friends. I played a mix of solo with the AI squad mates and paired up with one friend to try out the co-op. Let's start with the main campaign. This is your standard Ubisoft open world affair, but there's enough mixed in here to make Wildlands a very fun experience. There is a pretty in-depth character creator with a lot of options. From the get-go, you can make the operator of your dreams, and throughout the campaign, there's plenty of unlockables to customize further. After a quick tutorial section, you are literally just dropped in to do as you please. It's a little blunt, but Wildlands is a playground and the game knows best to just let you run free. You can tackle main missions, gather intel, support the rebels in side missions, take over outposts, or whatever you fancy. Collectibles mesh nicely with the open world because they are all directly useful. You can collect weapons, attachments, skill points, and resources. Searching for intel allows you to unlock missions and reveal collectibles. Overall, Ubisoft did a fantastic job at making this world feel very connected. Everything is working towards something else, and collectibles are usually positioned in areas where missions take place, which makes for some neat side objectives and negates the need to go on a collectathon later in the game. The skill tree is very in-depth and allows you to perk up your operator however you please. You will need to collect skill points and resources in order to unlock more skills, but that's just another way that everything is infused. The gunsmith system isn't massively complicated, but it looks slick as hell and provides enough options to make guns feel like your own. Builds are auto-saved and you can swap out guns at any time. The weapons sandbox here works, and it works well. Stealth is the name of the game here. Get in and out without the enemy knowing you were ever even there. You're given suppressors from the get-go and a drone to help with recon. Preparation is rewarded and a well-executed plan always feels satisfying. This is where Sync Shot comes in. If you're playing with AI squad mates, you can tag enemies, and then the next time you shoot, your squad mates will shoot the marked enemies in tandem. This system is fantastic and allows you to be extremely lethal when playing alone. Sure, you can just play the game via sync shots, but it was always more fun to get in on the action myself. Co-op is by far the better way to play the game, however. Making plans with friends is just a far more engaging experience, and being able to converge on missions from multiple angles allows for more dynamic team play that just isn't present in solo. The trade-off is that you have to account for human error, but even then, the chaos is fun in its own right. When you get spotted, all hell breaks loose, and enemy forces will call for reinforcements and converge on your position. These scenarios create some great action segments that aren't as scripted as those seen in the campaign missions, but you do die very quickly if caught out in the open. Missions are primarily go to a place, get the drone out, and then shoot a thing, but they do enough to remain interesting despite being mechanically very samey. This is usually the weak point of Ubisoft's game design, but the missions provide a great backdrop for literally just hanging out with friends, and I think that is what this game is striving to be. It really is a game to kick back with a few drinks and a few mates as a squad, shoot some bad guys, cause some explosions, and chip away at the open world in whatever way you see fit. And let's talk about that open world. It is massive. But there are plenty of dynamic areas that switch up the gameplay enough to keep things interesting. Each region has some mini bosses, an underboss and a big boss to take down before you get to the Kingpin himself. There's a nice progression and you do get to feel like you're taking on the cartel bit by bit throughout each region. I'm honestly really impressed with this campaign. I was having a blast in both single player and co-op. This is not some massively deep gameplay experience, but it is fundamentally fun and satisfying, and it's quickly become my co-op game of choice when me and my friends want to play something together. I do have some niggles, but we'll get onto them after we've gone through the other modes in this game. Guerrilla is a high action wave defense mode. If you want something a bit more arcadey with more explosions, then this will satisfy that itch. It's not incredibly deep, but it is some casual fun that gets pretty tough as you progress through the waves, and it allows you to try out more of the available weapons. Mercenaries is the DMZ mode in the game. Drop in, gather intel, scramble to a chopper, and get out. Again, this isn't massively deep, but I had some tense fun with it. This is by far the slowest gameplay here though. There simply weren't enough players to facilitate any decent action. It makes the game incredibly slow, and naturally, this was my least favourite mode. Finally, there is Ghost War, the 4v4 mode. This is more classic tactical multiplayer, and it's very serviceable. It feels tacked on, but it's not outright bad. Now, onto those problems. Why do I have to connect to a server to play solo? I know, friends might want to come in and play with me, but we have this thing called instant messaging where they can just message me and say, hey, want to play some Wildlands? I had a lot of trouble connecting to Ubisoft servers as is, and getting errors while I was just trying to play on my own felt unnecessary. Whilst your character controls very well for the most part, things can get clunky in tight situations. This wasn't a major issue for me as it was very rare, but dying because I couldn't move properly felt annoying. I absolutely despise that the camera auto switches when you walk around cover. You can switch it at will with the right bumper, but there is no option to lock the camera in the orientation you desire. It's not the biggest issue in the world, but it was my biggest annoyance. Vehicle controls here are pretty bad. Slower vehicles, boats and helicopters won't give you too much trouble, but faster cars handle like you're driving on oil-slicked ice skates. It is floaty and unresponsive in all the worst ways. All of the budget clearly went on the squad AI, because escort AI is terrible. Trying to get this guy to follow me was an exercise in frustration. He moved seemingly at random, and my squad mate got to have all of the killing fun whilst I played babysitter. I don't like that only certain weapons can be customized in the gunsmith. There are some cool rewards for killing main bosses and joining Ubisoft Club, but you have to use them as they come. On the topic of weapons, I do dislike that weapon attachment boxes only give one attachment for a specific class of weapons. I understand that the world is big and you need the player to constantly be unlocking stuff, but having lots of guns to play around with and customize is a big part of the fun. It's a shame to see it locked behind a grind. Unless... Fuck you, Ubisoft. More microtransactions in your full-priced premium single-player game that has a season pass and other DLC on top? What is wrong with you? This is just not okay. You guessed it, you can buy XP boosters, skill points, weapon and attachment packs. Just skip some of the grind, just skip some of the actual game you're playing. Finding this stuff can be pretty fun, but I cannot get behind locking gameplay items behind a paywall if you want to have some decent variety in the weapons you can get your hands on early in the game. We'll be talking about this more in our commitment section, but you're losing a point here too, Ubisoft. These were in Far Cry 5, they're in the newer Assassin's Creeds, and they're here too. Stop it. The actual DLCs don't come with the version you get on Game Pass, but they seem to offer their own unique twists on the formula. If you're after more Wildlands once you're done with the main game, these might be worth a look, especially on sale. Glad to get that out of my system. Overall, I had a blast with this gameplay. It is a great time alone and with friends, and the difference between these two experiences makes the game a treat regardless of your squad being online. Add on top a horde mode, standard multiplayer and DMZ, and you've got a really solid gameplay package that plays well and runs smoothly. There are some problems, and I will never forgive microtransactions, especially in single player games, but I had a hard time pulling myself away from this game to write this review, and I think that's deserving of a solid 4 out of 5. This is a gorgeous and varied world backed up by some solid SFX and UI design. Let's start with that world. Each region is greatly varied in both landscape and architecture. It provides a great mix of giving your eyes something fresh to look at whilst you get to play in a new setting with different building styles, heights and dynamic features. The day-night cycle adds into this great blend of gameplay and art direction. During the day, visibility is solid and you'll make easy pickings of your prey, but at night, the game calls Bravo 6 and goes dark. You do have some night vision to help you out, but the darkness creates a decent gameplay change. It's rare that nights in games get so dark, and I'm glad that Wildlands goes the extra mile with it. Weapons feel great to shoot, with solid sound design and decent recoil. It always feels good to shoot someone in the face, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. UI is mostly function over form, but I have to give special props to the gunsmith menu. Watching your gun snap apart whilst you pick attachments and then snap back together with a satisfying click is the most satisfying thing I've seen all year. This is a great example of a little extra polish going a long way. The OST is just serviceable. I honestly couldn't tell you what a single track sounds like because it all just blends in with the gunfire. Cutscenes have a great art direction about them, jumping all over the place and flowing wonderfully. They remind me a lot of those old Black Ops mission briefings, and that is always a good thing. In-game cutscenes, on the other hand, are terrible. The lip-syncing animation is hilarious and it pulls me right out of whatever is going on every single time. Despite that, Wildlands shines where it counts. The scenery is very pretty and the guns feel and sound great to shoot, even with suppressors equipped. The gunsmith menu is ace, and the rest of the UI does its job without going too overboard. Mix in great voiceover cutscenes, bland music, and some terrible lip-syncing animation, and we're rounding this art direction out with a 4 out of 5. Ubisoft knows what's up here. You just need a baddie and a reason to shoot them. Repeat that about 20 times and you've got yourself Wildlands. This narrative won't blow your mind, but it's enough to give the sandbox some content and help you feel better about connecting bullets with heads. The fact that you can do regions in any order you choose also leads to a disjointed narrative. I accidentally ran into what I think was meant to be a big twist right after leaving the first region. The story on its own is nothing to write home about, and then on top of that, it can't really establish a good flow because you can tackle the regions in a mostly freeform order. The narrative is presented in a great way with the rendered cutscenes, but as we said in the art direction section, the lip-syncing in-engine cutscenes is beyond terrible. It will pull you out of whatever is going on the second you notice it. I love short and sweet narrative sections, serviceable at its core, points for presentation, and negative points for jarring delivery. The maths checks out, 3 out of 5. Ghost Recon Wildlands is an insane content offering that runs smoothly for the most part. There's also a great plethora of settings with some big omissions. Content-wise, you're getting a campaign chock full of missions, collectibles, weapons, and toys for you to play with. Stack on a hardcore mode, 4v4 multiplayer, horde mode, and DMZ, all of which can be played with up to 3 of your friends. You can customize your operator separately between campaign, multiplayer, and DMZ. Multiplayer even has a ranked mode and its own progression system. Settings feel like they were made by 2 separate teams and then joined together a week before release. There's some serious quality of life in here, but then you're also missing stuff like subtitle options and rebindable controls. Gameplay settings let you toggle default aiming mode, helicopter controls, tutorial messages, invitations, matchmaking filters if you want to be recommended to other players, camera orientation, and parachuting camera orientation. Control lets you view controls with some small tweaks. You can invert the Y-axis but not the X-axis, toggle vibration, tweak aiming sensitivity, dead zones for each stick, driving sensitivity, drone look sensitivity, and look sensitivity. You can swap sticks, bumpers and triggers, toggle aim assist and choose a photo mode hotkey. HUD lets you decide what elements of the HUD you'd like to display. You can tweak everything here and it is wonderful. There's even a very handy guide to show you exactly what you're turning off and on. As someone who hates how much Ubisoft's UI can clutter the screen at times, I love this menu. Video has sliders for brightness, contrast and gamma, alongside some basic colorblind modes. Audio has sliders for master, music, SFX, voice and squad volume. You can decide on your voice chat mode and turn the radio on or off. Languages allows you to turn subtitles on or off, and has separate options for written and audio language. Wildlands can be subbed or dubbed if you so wish. That is a pretty solid list of tweaks, but there are some major omissions. First up, remappable controls. The standard control scheme isn't bad, it's actually pretty good, but there are no real options here to rebind something you may be uncomfortable with. There are no real major accessibility options, and Ubisoft is usually pretty good with this sort of stuff. You're getting a few UI and colorblind options, and that's about it. Subtitles also have no options, and that is a problem. The font used is pretty small and can be hard to read at times. The reason that this is a problem is because a lot of cutscenes are voiceover only, and they move at a pretty breakneck speed. It is insanely easy to miss things that are being said to you. Finally, we experienced no bugs during our playtime. There was some wonkiness, but we're forgiving of what we call standard open world jank. All in all, you're getting an insane content offering that can be tweaked a lot, but not as much as you'd like. You can, however, share what is here with your friends. I'm very impressed, and I'm giving Wildlands a 4 out of 5 for its technical offering. General accessibility is a big deal around here. The commitment aspect of Wildlands is a mixed bag. Hard drive footprint is pretty massive, clocking in at just over 60 gigabytes. This is a hefty download and asks a lot of your hard drive. Each region took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to complete the main story. Checkpoints are fairly frequent, and it's always easy to hop in and do something of value regardless of how much time you have to play. This is a very easy game to fit in around life if you're just playing the campaign. The same can be said for Ghost War, where the matches aren't massively long and you can hop in and out easily. Guerrilla and DMZ are a different story. These matches can last a very long time, so make sure you plan ahead for those sessions. Matchmaking times were a bit on the slow side for me, but I wasn't left waiting too long. The game is getting a bit old, so this is to be expected. The game also does a solid job of accommodating you if you want to play, but your squad is busy. Should you die on a mission, you're in for a bad time. The game spawns you back at the nearest safe space, and this can be pretty far from your actual mission. Every time this happened, my time felt disrespected. But it's the microtransactions that really disrespect your time and money here. They disrespect your time because they'll have you wondering why you bothered to play the game normally when you could just shell out some cash and play with a bigger arsenal, or more skills, or earn XP faster. It feels incredibly tacky. Currency is also set at standard freemium prices, which is too expensive, especially considering that this was designed as a full-priced premium single-player product with additional paid DLC. On the brighter side of the monetization, you do have a season pass, which seems chock full of content and is frequently on sale. I wouldn't recommend it at full price, but ultimately that decision is down to you. We're only reviewing the version that is currently on Game Pass, and that comes without the DLC. Ghost Recon Wildlands is very easy to fit in around other games and life, but it asks a lot of your hard drive and invalidates your time whilst also taking your money with the stupid store. We're dropping to a 2 out of 5 on our commitment scale. Colour me surprised. Ghost Recon Wildlands is worth your time. You really are getting a solid package here that, despite having a thoroughly okay narrative and some contempt for your time, is plenty of fun to play and looks great. Don't get me wrong, this is not some masterpiece of game design that will redefine your expectations of open world games going forward. It is absolutely fast food gaming that should be enjoyed on mic with your mates. A pizza in front of you and not a care in the world that it's 3 AM and you have work in 3 hours. But it is dynamic and it is fun. It'll never not be funny to watch your friend miss a shot and an entire base of enemies go nuts trying to kill you. Wildlands definitely fills a gap for me. It is simply chill co-op fun that is innately satisfying to pull off. Team games are usually pretty stressful, be it Warzone, Fortnite, or something like Back 4 Blood where the entire Undead Legion is charging you. Wildlands knows to keep it simple and keep it chill. Roll up to a base, pick your targets, and sink your shots. 3, 2, 1.